Pavel has probably flipped through the family album with photos for the 100th time. In one picture he goes to nature as part of a student group, in another he holds diplomas in his hands and smiles, but in the third, Ira is already standing next to Pavel, who after some couple of dozen photos in the album will become his wife. The young surgeon looked carefully at the face of the deceased spouse, after which he whispered, "And how well everything started. We thought to buy a house outside the city so that the forest and the river were nearby. And now what? Only 4 years of happiness have been measured out to us." Pavel did not like to communicate with colleagues on this topic, especially with Boris, who had been in love with Ira since the first year of medical school. "It's all your fault." "Well, why did you entrust her with the steering wheel? You should know that she recently got a driver's license. There is no experience yet, so she did not manage to drive," Boris said. "In your opinion, did I kill Ira, or did I pump alcohol into that reckless driver who drove into oncoming traffic? Don't blame me for everything. I have her face in front of my eyes every day. A year has passed, but it seems as if it happened yesterday." Boris frowned with displeasure, but did not pursue the topic further. Frankly speaking, he himself did not consider Pavel guilty. But, despite this, from time to time I still reminded him and made him extreme. Although, for the most part, it was superfluous, since not a day passed without Pavel did not blame himself for what had happened. Eventually, tired of living in the past, the young surgeon decided to end it forever. "First you need to remove Ira's things from the house." "Well, what's the use of having them in the closet? I definitely won't need them. But it's quite enough for the poor," Pasha thought, collecting a voluminous package. Taking it in his hands, the surgeon went outside and looked around. There were still few passers-by at this time of day, but a small group of tramps was already near the trash can. Pavel came closer and addressed one of them. "Hey, come here, be kind. I have business with you." The tramp looked suspiciously at the package that the man was holding in his hand, after which he asked, "What's the deal? If it's some kind of obscenity, I'm not friends with crime. And then I was alone here. I asked a competitor to write an obscene word with a marker on his car. So then these businessmen punished me like that. No, there are things here. Maybe you need someone. I don't want to throw it in the trash. Maybe it will come in handy for you." The tramp's eyes lit up greedily. "What kind of things?" "Your clothes? You'll be just my height. I could use a new pair of shoes." Pavel smiled shyly and hurried to dispel the homeless man's dreams. "No, there are women's things there. Dresses, blouses of my late wife, you know. She died a year ago. So I decided, maybe someone will need her things." The tramp waved his hand in disappointment, but still took the package. "Nothing, everything will do for us. I think I'll find where to attach them. And thank you, dear man. Although I would like more shoes, you would look in your locker, okay? If there is, I will definitely bring it in." Pavel summed up and headed for the house. Today promised to be a busy day. The head of the surgical department has an anniversary, and therefore he was waiting for everyone in the restaurant by 4 o'clock. "I do not accept objections. Today I need everyone who can hold a glass in their hands, including teetotalers and teetotalers," Arkady Sergeyevich announced shortly before the end of the shift. Pavel did not want to go to the event, but he also did not want to offend the manager by refusing. "Don't miss it. Arkashka can help you make a career. You know yourself," Boris whispered to him before going home. "Yes, I know. But what do I care about your career when there is no happiness in life?" Pavel replied. Despite all the skepticism, Pavel still had to come to the restaurant. To celebrate Arkady's birthday, Sergeyevich rented a banquet hall, in which waiters in elegant liveries scurried to the sounds of live music. "What do you want? Cognac? Or maybe wine or champagne?" Looking into Pavel's eyes, one of them asked. "No, thank you. I would look around for a start," Pavel replied. The young surgeon entered the hall and sat down at an empty table, while he deliberately avoided the company of Boris, who did nothing but talk constantly. After 6 obligatory toasts, the guests perked up, and the hearts heated by alcohol immediately wanted music. The receptionist smiled understandingly and made a hand sign to someone standing behind the screen. Soon a frail young woman dressed in a dress of the once fashionable coral color appeared on the stage. Taking the microphone, the stranger sang a sad song, from which the majority of those present sharply pinched their hearts. "How he sings, look at him. Just like a nightingale bird. And the voice is like honey," the hero of the day remarked admiringly. Despite the fact that the holiday began relatively recently, Arkady Sergeyevich had already managed to get drunk on cognac himself and got Boris drunk, who was already practically asleep at the table. At this moment, Pavel turned his gaze to the stage and shuddered in surprise. "No, it just can't be. Is that my Ira? The surgeon looked and could not believe his eyes. The woman standing on the stage was wearing his wife's dress, which he had given to the tramps at the garbage cans this morning. Moreover, the stranger was so similar to Ira that Pavel sincerely believed that it really was her. The surgeon got up from the table and slowly walked towards the stage. If only it was her. Lord, let it be my Iraka, the man mentally prayed. Of course, he understood that this was impossible, but his tortured heart demanded a miracle, and here and now. The resemblance was so noticeable that Pavel caught his breath. But before he could get close to the stage, the woman swayed and, clutching her head with her hand, slowly sat down on the floor. A doctor! Urgent doctor! The woman is ill! One of the musicians shouted. Since Pavel was closest to the stage, he was the first to rush to the singer. What's wrong with you? Where does it hurt? Don't worry, I'm a doctor, though a surgeon, but still the stranger opened her eyes and whispered softly, It's okay, it's a faint. It happens to me sometimes. Only now Pavel noticed the unnatural pallor of her skin, which could be caused by malaise or some kind of illness. The difference between her and Ira, of course, was, although at a distance the woman seemed to be an exact copy of Pavel's wife. An important role in this optical illusion was played by the dress of the deceased, which for some inexplicable reason turned out to be on the unconscious singer. How are you? Can you walk? Should I call a taxi? Pavel asked, helping the woman to stand up. He still did not understand the reasons for the fainting and attributed it to a nervous state at the time of going on stage. Yes, I can. Now, I definitely need to finish singing, otherwise the administrator will not pay for my performance, the woman whispered. You don't need to think about this now, but about coming to your senses and taking care of your health. At that moment, the administrator appeared on the stage, shaking his voluminous stomach. Discontent froze on the obese man's face. Nadka, why are you lying down? Haven't you eaten anything again? I'd say I'd give you the leftovers from the kitchen. And you've come up with something. I don't need such a concert for nothing. How did we agree with you? You sing. I'm paying you. I'm sorry. What are you doing? Why are you talking to Nadezhda in such a tone? Pavel couldn't stand it. In his understanding, the rudeness of the administrator has long crossed all boundaries, and who will forbid me to talk like that, are you? She's a street bum. She sang for pennies in the transition. I looked after her, put her in order a little, and began to attract her for concerts. Her voice is good, you can't take that away, the administrator sincerely praised. Nadezhda looked at her defender and lowered her eyes. Apparently, the administrator was telling the truth, and Pavel understood this by the absence of any reaction from the street singer. So, okay, we don't need any money, we're leaving. With such an attitude to people, you can finish it yourself, the surgeon exclaimed and led Nadia to the exit. They were followed by the cries of an indignant hero of the day, who was offended by such an early departure of the guest. Well, go, look, you'll come yourself when I need money. Yes, only the price for the performance will be twice as low. Remember that, the administrator shouted. Frankly speaking, he did not suffer any losses today. Moreover, he even managed to save money on Nadia. The guests were already drunk, and therefore live music could easily be replaced with audio recordings. Where are you going, Nadia? What area do you live in? Of course, I don't have cars, but I can call a taxi, Pavel asked after going outside. Nadia timidly raised her eyes and looked at her new acquaintance. Yes, actually, I have nowhere to go. I live in a shack, thanks to the deceased. And my son is 5 years old. His pen is weak from birth. His fingers are gathered in a bundle. They do not unbend. Here I am saving money for the operation. Actually, I was a nurse in the past. I worked in the maternity ward until I was kicked out for negligence. Pavel perked up and continued the conversation. And what? Was there something serious? Medicines or some other scams? Don't think about it. I'm not judging. Everything happens in life. Nadezhda's cheeks flushed with shame. What kind of scams? The woman in labor lost her personal belongings, her mobile phone and wallet. The amount, it seems, was large and I was accused. The head of the department wanted to fire me for a long time. So I had to quit, with a scandal, of course. But before that, I took the boy. Kiryusha's mother refused as soon as she saw his pen. I remember this woman in labor well. She did it emotionally, not out of spite. So I became a single mother. Nadia's act shocked Pavel to the depths of his soul. But it was possible to get a job in another place, in a dental clinic, for example, or at an ambulance station. Good nurses are needed everywhere. And there are only problems with this restaurant, Pasha asked. Of course, you can get a job, but only the manager wrote me a bad resume. They don't take anywhere in their specialty. And then my stepfather burned down the house on a drunken case, so I was left with a small child in my arms. I found a place for myself. I looked at an abandoned house. Tramps help, because I'm like a street doctor for them, to whom I will give an injection, and to whom I will advise the right medicine. They don't forget me. They brought me a whole package of women's things this morning. They are so good, almost not worn. At the mention of Ira's belongings, Pavel shuddered. Now he understood why he had confused Nadezhda with his late wife, namely because of the coral dress that fit her perfectly. Just don't think anything bad, but you look very much like my late wife, and from 10 meters away. In general, you are a spitting image, Pavel admitted. Nadia was embarrassed once again. The woman's eyes showed that she liked the compliment. Pavel still did not call a taxi, but instead offered Nadia a snack in a cafe. There is a good diner right around the corner, otherwise at this rate you will soon faint again hungry. If you want, we can take Kirill with us. The pastries there are not bad. Yes, and there is ice cream. Pavel's proposal caused Nadia sincere joy. She knew that little Kyusha had never been to such establishments before, and he had seen ice cream only on big holidays. Well, that's good. Now we will take your son and go ahead, Pavel summed up. Soon the three of them were already sitting in a cozy cafe and eating the specialties of the owner of the establishment with an appetite. About 3 years ago, Pavel literally pulled the businessman out of the world after peritonitis, and now he considered it his duty to feed the doctor for free, although Pasha himself was not at all against paying for dinner. Seeing that Kyusha was eating with his left hand, the surgeon suddenly became gloomy. His right palm was crooked, which made it impossible for the boy to use it to the full. Nothing. I'll find out from my connections what can be done. Maybe we can get a free quota for treatment, and if not, we'll try to do it on our own, Pavel said, intercepting Nadia's anxious look. It would be nice, of course, if they fixed my pan, otherwise they tease me with an Iron Man in kindergarten, he replied. Kirill. We'll do it, Commander, Pavel said, and automatically glanced at his watch. You know, the time is already late. In order to walk around the city, let's go to my place. My house is big. There is enough room for everyone. Nadia tried to refuse, but Kirill immediately tilted the situation in his favor. Let's go, Mom. My uncle is a good doctor, and at home we have only dampness and cockroaches are running around. Okay, your truth. I don't mind, said Nadezhda. The guests liked Pavel's house right away. It was large and cozy. The only thing he lacked was the absence of a female hand, which immediately caught Nadia's eye. As she approached one wall, she suddenly noticed a photograph in a black frame. A pretty woman of about 30 was looking at Nadia from her. This is my wife, who died in an accident a year ago. We have only been married for 4 years, Pavel explained. Suddenly Nadia's eyes filled with tears. What happened? Are you sick again? The owner of the house asked anxiously and added bitterly, it's all I'm a fool. I trudged on foot. I should have called a taxi. But Nadia was looking at the picture on the wall and couldn't take her eyes off it. This is Kyusha's own mother, the one who refused him in the maternity ward. We were also told that we are similar to her, the woman whispered. What? Did Ira have a child? Why didn't she tell me about it? Although, at that time, we were not familiar with her yet. Had she abandoned her own son? Pavel's surprise knew no bounds. Don't forget, she was depressed, the groom left, and also a boy with a postpartum injury. Anyone will have a nervous breakdown here, Nadia replied, calming down a little. Fortunately, Kyusha did not hear their conversation because he was exploring the neighboring rooms for toys. Pavel could not calm down for a long time and sat up late with Nadia in the kitchen. There they jointly built a logical chain and realized that the Ira did not do it out of malice. Moreover, fate already seems to have punished her for such a shameful act. Of course, Kirill was not Pavel's own son, but his future fate did not lose its significance for the doctor. Don't worry, you can stay with me as long as you need. And if you decide to stay, I will be only too glad. Kyusha Men's society it will obviously benefit, Pavel said. Thank you. Nadia started up and wiped away a tear with her hand. 6 months later, Pavel's house was more like a beehive, in which the role of bees was performed by restless guests. Everyone was waiting for only one thing, the return of little Kyusha from the clinic, where he had corrective surgery on his right arm. While the boy was being treated, Pavel and Nadia prepared a surprise for him by equipping the nursery with the latest construction fashion. But the main surprise was not in this, but in the fact that the young parents decided to legitimize their relationship. Ironically, the wedding day coincided with the discharge of Kyusha from the clinic. So, having left the sickened hospital walls, the boy plunged into an atmosphere of joy and fun. When it was his turn to congratulate the newlyweds, Kirill asked for a brother or sister. "But you can do both at once, otherwise I know you," the boy exclaimed and clapped his hands. Now Kiryusha's right hand was no different from his left, and he could applaud his parents as much as he wanted. How do you like the story? Write your opinion in the comments. I will be glad to subscribe to the channel. I love you.